Hello, dear all. Very good evening to all of you. Mm, Just wanted to have a cup of coffee with all of you. Oh my God, this coffee is just wow. Well, if I say it's wow, what does it mean? I'm providing a feedback for a cup of coffee that has been served to me. Well, actually, I have made it for myself. If I say this is just perfect, this is wow, what does it mean? Is it a perfect feedback that I'm providing? Well, no. Might be, the definition of wow, definition of a perfect cup of coffee is different for different people. I may like it piping hot. You may like it at a sipping temperature. I may like it, I mean, it's perfect, it should be a perfect blend of milk, sugar, coffee, and some of you may like without sugar. Some of you don't even like to add milk to coffee. So, definition of perfect of wow is different for all of us. So, here comes the feedback part. When we are talking about feedback, see what kind of feedback we are providing to our students in our classes for their work, for their assignments, for the projects, for different activities that they participate in. What do? Generally, we give them grades A plus B. Sometimes they are based on rubrics, generally, they are not, right? And sometimes we use wonderful, beautiful, catchy words that are available on the internet. When we check synonyms for good, beautiful, wonderful work, we write in our students' notebook those wonderful words, phenomenal, fantastic, fabulous work, right? So even see those kinds of words, they do not provide that perfect feedback to our students. So in general, when I say like feedback often fails to achieve its potential. This is when sometimes it happens like people, they feel attacked, devalued, or personally criticized when the feedback is generally it is vague or maybe it's not action oriented. Like, for example, I may say for this cup of coffee, like I'd say, it's so weird, right? I may say, I didn't like it. So I have to specify actually why I don't like this cup of coffee. Why? Maybe the sugar is more, maybe the coffee powder is less, right? Or maybe it's at just sipping temperature, but my liking is to have it as piping hot. So I need to define. I need to be very, very specific, right? I generally cannot say, this is not good. What's not good? I have to specify the different parts, different parameters of when I'm using a particular term, good, wow, perfect. So that should be based on some specific rubrics. It should be there. So today we're going to talk about ladder of feedbacks. As I have just shared with you, feedback often fails. Why? Generally, we are not ready to take the feedback because our experience is like that. Generally, the one who provides a feedback, either we're talking about the positives or we are talking about the negatives, and whatever the information or the feedback is provided, that is not action or the solution oriented, right? So it happens with all of us, with our students, with us as the teachers as well. When we are getting the feedback from the management, yes, we are not doing it perfectly fine. So what we are not doing, so we should get a perfect feedback. What kind of feedback? The feedback that should be actually grounded in clarity, the feedback that is fair, the feedback that is balanced in terms of you see positives as well as negatives, and that focuses on improvement, deeper understanding of the issues that are at hand, right? So in communicative feedback, today we are talking about ladder of feedback, in which we'll be talking about communicative feedback. that not only does the person getting the feedback feel respected, valued, but the community, the members who are providing the feedback, the respondents or the audience as a whole grows in collaborative, that kind of spirit is there. Yes, we need to learn. So let us talk about letter of feedback, this kind of strategy for providing feedback to our students in our classes. So this is actually a 5-step feedback. As you can see on the ladder, starting from moving from bottom to top, there are 5 steps. First step, as you can see, a magnifying glass means we need more clarity about the topic that is being presented by the presenter, right? For example, if I am acting as a presenter, I am sharing the piece of work. It can be artwork, it can be a project, science project, it can be research project in history, it can be book review in the languages, it can be a write-up, right? It can be anything. Okay, music, dance, drama, anything I would like to present to my class, my fellow mates, if I would like to share with them, like, this is my work. So I need to first present my work, and the audience, the respondents, they may ask me questions for better clarity, because I may not be perfect in presentation. I may be missing some of the information, may not be providing it properly. For example, if I say I have this product that I have designed, and I have not mentioned the products, who will be using the project, which age group, is it meant for? So my audience will be asking me questions. So that is clarify. And as we move up this ladder of feedback, second step, as you can see a trophy over here, the trophy means the values. I will be sharing certain kinds of values. Just for example, if let us take this example of a cup of coffee. This is a cup of coffee with me, right? And I'm talking about this, and I have made a cup of coffee, be it a home science class, let it be. So here, the audience may ask me question like, for whom you have prepared this cup of coffee? You have prepared it for a child, 10 to 15-year-old, or maybe for an aged person, maybe for an adult, because they would like to see the taste for a female, male. They can ask any kind of questions, or they may also ask, about the area, the place as well, right? Because that taste also changes as per the various regions as well. Okay, so now next second point is value. If I talk about this cup of coffee, if somebody is providing me kind of feedback, they may talk about the values. Values is the plus, it's presented very well, right? So perfectly blended, right? They talk about the amount of coffee and sugar is just perfect, right? And now moving on to the third step, the jigsaw puzzle with a question mark. Third step is concerns and questions. If audience is having some questions, they may ask the presenter those questions like anything, which brand you have used, have you blended it properly, how did you use it? They can ask any kind of questions. And then next is the insights, suggestions. So when they have just had a sip of this coffee, they can give the suggestions as well. They could have, okay, you should have tried it with lesser amount of sugar, or next time better if you can try it without sugar, that would be best. Okay, you can try it different variation without milk as well. So these kinds of suggestions can be given. And the last step, as you can see at the top, is thank. Gratitude. Let's all learn to have attitude for gratitude, in which presenter will be thanking the audience or the respondents, and respondents would be thanking the presenter. Why? Presenter would be thanking the audience for the wonderful feedback, for the balanced feedback. And the audience respondents would be thanking the presenter for the wonderful opportunity that has been given to them for providing with the feedback. So moving on to the next, we'll be talking about in detail all these 5 steps. We will be talking in detail about this. Now, as I've already told you through an example, so the first step is clarify. If I talk about this first step, that is clarify. So what happens in this step is, before coming to this clarify step, as a presenter, I have to, suppose I'm a presenter, so I have to present my work that is either in progress or is at the brink of finishing. So I have to explain my project, and I have to give enough information to the audience so that they'll be able to design good questions. They'll be able to offer meaningful ideas, feedback. And if there are some challenges that are being encountered by me while completing the task, while just going through the project, I have to explain those challenges as well to my audience, right? And after that comes the fourth step, clarify. So audience of respondents, they are invited to ask clarifying questions to ensure they fully understand the work. So clarifying questions, they are actually designed to clear any kind of confusion, any kind of missing information that is not being provided, right? So they are not about offering suggestions. Thus the question, you should not be asking questions, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? No, we have to ask particular question. If any kind of information that is not being provided by the presenter, then audience, it has the full right to ask those kind of questions to them. Well, if the presenter has already explained it pretty well, so there can be no clarifying questions. So that's perfectly fine. So moving on to the next step, as you can see on the screen, value. As I've already explained, value means here audience has to talk about the positive points, values, what all things, the points they have noted. Again, it is not vague. It should not be, wow, wonderful. It should be having some specific reasons, right? That kind of clarity should be given. Like the audience is now to express the statements of value. They can use the phrases, STEM statements as I value your efforts being put in by completing this project. I appreciate or I value your efforts in collecting the data. You have to be very, very specific, right? And these draw attention to what was positive, strong, thoughtful, effective. We have to look at that part, the positive parts, right? The statements of the value need to be very, very specific. If we say that part was really good, then that has to be followed up with the question, can you be more specific? What are you noticing in the work that is making you say it is good? As I said, the coffee is good. Why it is good, right? We have to give the reasons. Now, coming to the next step on this ladder, questions and concerns, all right? So this is the third step on this ladder of feedback. At this step, questions, puzzles, confusions, concerns, they are being raised. So we should avoid the absolute statements of judgment, right? Saying what is wrong, this part needs to be fixed, can put people on a defensive or maybe cause them to shut down, right? Like if anybody asks me, what's this? Just change this. You need to fix it. That is really very demotivating. So we can use some conditional statements while talking about questions and concerns. Like I'll give you 1 or 2 examples. You may use what would happen if you so and so. You might want to look at this, or maybe you can say from my perspective it's like that. You're not defending the person, you're not defending the presenter, but you are sharing your concerns, you are sharing your questions, right? But at this step, because you will be having different kinds of questions and concerns, so as a presenter, what I need to do is I should avoid the temptation of responding. Like I have put in a lot of efforts for making this cup of coffee, right? So if anybody asks me, what is this? This is weird. What have you done? What have you done? I go defensive and it will be difficult for me to stop my temptation for responding. But yes, I have to maintain my patience level as a presenter. So here's the questions and concerns. Now, moving on to the next step, suggest. Suggestions, ideas, everybody needs, because sky is the limit. We want to improve. As I always say, request all of you, like do share your valuable suggestions. You can email me, you can put them in the comment section below, but please do suggest, give some ideas. Nobody is perfect, right? When we say nobody is perfect, everybody is having his or her own perspective, right? So we should be ready to give some kind of suggestions to the presenter, right? So they'll be providing concrete suggestions on how to improve the work. We can use such kind of statements. What about adding dash, dash, dash? I mean, whatever, depending upon the project. Okay, perhaps you could have worked in this manner. Something that might make this project stronger is, I mean, you could have looked at this point. It might be useful to consider his or her, the author's perspective, the audience perspective. I mean, any kind of suggestions you can give. And sometimes you see suggestion step is blended with the questions and concerns. And it's quite natural to raise an issue and then provide a possible solution. Okay, we can raise some issues and then we'll be able to provide in questions and concerns. We are raising issues, we are asking questions, we are sharing concerns. And when moving on to the next step, that is suggest, there we will be able to suggest some of the points, that is, we'll be able to give possible solutions. As I talked to you earlier, like it may be trying it with a lesser amount of sugar, or maybe it should be presented without sugar, right? Because in that case, I mean, the audience can be broader, right? Because somebody who likes sugar can add it later on, but once sugar is being added, the one who doesn't like to have sugar with coffee, I mean, would be difficult for him or her to have that cup of coffee, right? So moving on to next step, letter of feedback. Last step, thank you, gratitude. Let's all have this attitude for gratitude. I already explained. Let me stress this again. As a presenter, I need to be thankful to the audience, to the respondents for providing me with wonderful feedback that is quite balanced, with questions, concerns, with suggestions, values. I mean, different points are there. Okay. And as a respondent, as an audience, I would be thanking to the presenter for that wonderful opportunity that is being provided for sharing the feedback. Because this ladder of feedback, it is a two-street process, two-way process, in which, first of all, the presenter feels valued, respected, because we are providing feedback by sharing values, then raising questions and concerns, then sharing the suggestions as well. And at the end, we are thanking as well, sharing our vote of thanks, right, with the presenter. Okay. And another thing is, as audience, we are also very well prepared. We empathize the situation. While being empathizing the situation, we share our concerns, our ways, like how the things can be dealt with. So we can also think about different ways of handling the project. So thinking goes on. Okay. Thinking about thinking, metacognition, it is really very, very important, right? Let everybody think. Why it's not the presenter who is thinking, it's the audience who is also thinking. It is the facilitator. As a facilitator, when I'm checking, like my students are taking part in a group activity, I'm also thinking. So everybody is thinking. Okay, so this is the objective of teaching learning process, to make it more meaningful. So if we talk about timings, all the steps can be timed 2 to 5 minutes for each step. Usually we are having 40 minutes of class. We can divide it accordingly, and that can be varied, okay, as per the length and complexity of the work, depending upon the project that is being shared by the students. If it includes various kinds of principles, phenomena, there is a science project, okay, or maybe when they're talking about book review, we also have to talk about different aspects of the review. Age group of the students, the younger the students, they'll be taking more time, right? So we have to plan it accordingly. Group size, it now it depends upon the teacher how we have divided the students in different kinds of groups, whether, I mean, there's a small group, or as you can see in the last sentence, it's written variations. There can be number of variations for this ladder of feedback strategy. I can either help my students to in conducting this letter of feedback in the whole class, where one child is presenting and the rest of the students, they are providing the feedback. And I can also conduct as a fish bowl strategy, where there are students are sitting in two circles. In inner circle, some students, they are presenting, they are providing the feedback to the presenter, and the outer circle is just audience. They are noticing how the things are happening, okay, because they are learning from their activity, and later on they'll be providing the feedback. They will be providing the feedback to the presenter as well as to the respondent, so that can be conducted in that manner as well. So another strategy, another variation is helping them work in different groups. I can divide my class in groups of 3 or 4. They may sit in the four corners of the room, and where they will be providing feedback to each other through this ladder of feedback. And I, as a facilitator, will be able to check whether my children, they are using right kind of terminology, whether they are giving proper feedback or not. So that kind of strategy can be used. So here, this is the format for ladder of feedback. You can print it, you can use it in your class, you may share it with your students, talk to them, explain the same to them. They may also stick the same in the notebooks and the blank spaces. They will be able to write their sentences, their comments, their compliments, their suggestions as per the headers that are being given. So all of you, please use these kinds of strategies in your class to really make feedback meaningful. You see, nowadays we are not ready to listen to the feedback. I'm going to check my coffee. Now it has changed from piping hot to sipping temperature. Let me also enjoy my coffee, and you too enjoy watching this feedback strategy, letter of feedback, and do not forget to share your valuable comments in the suggestion box below. Let us join our hands, give proper feedback to our students through this ladder of feedback, and let's help our children climb the ladder of success when we'll be providing them with right feedback, balanced feedback. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.